Hello, spooky people. It's Jennifer, and I hope everyone is doing fantastic today. Today, I'm going to tell you my true ghost stories. I feel like everything started when I was a baby. My mom told me a story that when I was maybe a few weeks old, I was in my bed in my room, and she and my dad were in their bed in their room. She was still awake, and she saw this cloud with a face looking at her and smiling at her. She said it looked, really nice, and it said my name. It said Jennifer. And after it said my name, it went under the bed, came out of the other side, turned really ugly. She said a very ugly, scary face, and jumped at her. That was the first thing, and I say it because it said my name. My mom went in and checked on me. I was fine. Within the year, we moved, and the house that we moved to was just across the street from the one where that occurred. I had many things happen in that house. I lived in that house until I was the age of 6, and a lot of things went on there. One of the things that I remember, I was laying in bed, and I guess it was dusk. It may have been summer because there was still a tiny bit of light outside. I always got put to bed way too early. In my opinion, it was too early. And I was just laying there and staring out the window. I had a window that was a higher window, and it had curtains. I'm looking at the window, and the curtains started billowing, like moving inward, like they were being blown from the outside in. And I'm just looking at that, and I'm thinking, okay, my mom must have opened the window. Well, no sooner than I thought that, a white apparition came in the window. And I was very young. And in my mind, I thought, that's a ghost. I've always been a lover of Halloween, and I thought that's a ghost. And I'm watching the curtains billow, and this white see-through apparition coming into the window, and it went a little further and it disappeared. And the curtains just went back to normal, like no wind. I'm terrified. I start screaming. My mom comes in. What is going on? And, at that age, all I could say was, I saw a ghost. A ghost just came in through my window. And my mom's like, your windows, no, no. And I said, well, the curtains were blowing. There's wind. And a ghost came in, and she's like, no, that didn't happen. You need to go to sleep. And I was like, I saw it. So she went to the window and she checked it. It was not open. And she's like, see, the window's closed, go to sleep. And she left. And of course I had to lay there terrified of the ghost that came through the window, because I saw that. That was one of the things that happened in that house. A lot of times when I lived in that house, I would hear my dad call me, and my dad was at work. This happened many, many times in that house. I'd be sitting there watching TV, doing something, and my mom would be in the same room, and I would hear my dad's voice just loud and clear say Jennifer. And I'm like looking around, and I start looking around. And I asked my mom, I was like, Daddy's home? And she's like, no. And I was like, he's calling me. She goes, no. And I'm like, yeah, he's calling me. That happened many, many times. I don't know what that is. Y'all, I have no explanation for the things that have happened to me. All I know is that they did happen, and that's all I can say. I know that we had neighbors in that neighborhood that had paranormal activity at their houses. And of course, we lived across the street before we lived at this house, and Things happened there, so I don't know what it was about this area, but something was going on. So we moved away when I was 6, and I do not remember really having any kind of things go on. When I was 11, we moved back to South Louisiana, and my dad was heavily involved in the church. Therefore, we lived next to the church. From the age of 11 to, I want to say, the age of maybe 15, a lot of stuff went on, especially in and around the church. One time, my sister and I were in the front of the church looking toward the back wall, and my mom was sitting in a pew and she was facing us. My sister starts freaking out, and inside I'm freaking out a little bit because I think I know what she's freaking out about. And I'm like, did you just see that? And she's like, yes, a ghost on the back wall. We saw now this one, a lot of times when I see these apparitions, they look misty, like a little foggy mist, a cloud that's above the ground floating by. And a lot of times they are white. Well, this one was dark. It was gray. And it was floating along the back of the wall, and then it just disappeared. And she saw the exact same thing. Needless to say, we packed it up and went home that night. A lot of times when you would walk around in this church, there were certain areas in there that would give me the absolute creeps, make your hair stand up, give you chills, make you very, very, very uncomfortable. And to this day, I have nightmares about the things that I saw in there and things about this building. There were just certain parts of that building that were, worse than others. The whole thing, honestly, was creepy. But there were just certain areas that were just so much worse than others. And there were people who attended the church who said the same thing. This was definitely something that was felt by many, many people. And who knows how many people felt it and never did say anything. I do know that one time I was in the back during what we called children's church. There was a little boy who was probably 3, 4. And he was acting up. He was being bad. And he said that the devil would come up through the floor and aggravate him. That's his story. That's what happened. That's what was said. That's just a little taste, though. That's some weird stuff. You know what I mean? And where that occurred, that was one of those places that would make your hair stand up and give you chills. My mom told a story that one day she was driving home. And like I said, the house that we lived in was close to the church. She was passing the church and driving toward the house. As she was driving toward the house, she looked toward the back of the house. Peeping around the side of the house that we lived in was a short, red, goblinish type of creature staring at her. And as she was getting closer and looking at him, he ducked back behind the house. Another weird situation in that area. This is another story. One night I am laying in my bed trying to go to sleep, and y'all, this is absolutely batshit crazy, but this huge pair of lips comes out of nowhere and kissed me on my cheek and went into the wall. And I took my hand and I was like, brushed my cheek and it was wet. I have no explanation for that. And I don't know. And honestly, that is just absolutely crazy. I don't know what it was, but I will say about that experience is that it was actually a very, very good feeling. Like I didn't have any kind of spooky feeling, or I wasn't scared. It was actually a very comforting thing, and I have no explanation for it, why there would be disembodied lips floating around giving kisses. Like, I don't know. I have another story. Now, this one, if you thought that last story was weird, get ready for this one. I used to clean the church. I was in there just about finished with getting everything done. It was about to be dark, so it was just barely light outside. About the time, like when I saw that ghost come in my window when I was a kid, kind of about that time of day. So the church had doors. Double doors. They were glass doors, and they were the kind that you put a key in and would turn it to lock it or unlock it. So when I would unlock them and come inside, I would always lock the door behind me so nobody could come in, safety precaution. And I would leave the keys in the door on the inside. Thank God. I was finishing up cleaning that day. I had all of the lights off because when I had started, it was light outside. So in that front part, I didn't have the outside lights on or the lights in that hallway on or anything. And the only light was, the light coming from outside because it was starting to get dark. I'm walking down the hallway toward that door to go out. As I'm walking down that hallway, there is another hallway that intersects. It makes a T. As I'm walking past that hallway, this huge, red, scaly creature jumped out at me. I'm telling y'all, it terrified me. This thing was huge. It filled the whole hallway. This was a very wide hallway that it was coming from. The ceilings were not high. They were on the lower side. I'm pretty tall. And let me tell you something. When this thing lunged at me, I jumped so high, my head touched the ceiling. It scared the absolute crap out of me. And as soon as my feet hit the floor again, I ran as fast as I could to those double doors, and it was terrifying because I had to, of course, unlock them to get out of them. And I ran as fast as I could to the house and told my mom. And you know what she asked me? Did you lock the door behind you? Heck no, I didn't lock the door behind me. No. No way I didn't. Well, she was aggravated and had to go over there, and she looked around and everything and locked the door. I stood outside. I was not going back in there that night. No, thank you. So a little more description on this thing. After it jumped out of me, it receded back into the hallway, disappeared. I don't know. I didn't see it again after that. But what little part that I did see of it, like I said, it was huge, red, scaly. It filled the entire hallway, high and wide. I'm trying to think of what it reminds me of. I always have a hard time. I don't know exactly if I could pick out anything to say that it looked like. All I know is very red, scaly, very muscular, very chunky. It had claws. It had kind of like fangs, beady eyes, and it was also horned. It was terrifying. absolutely terrifying. To this day, my mind is blown that I saw something that looked like that. And I have to say, I haven't had many things happen after that, except for if you saw the part 1 of the True Ghost Stories. Those are things that happened after this when I was an adult. So if you haven't seen that one and you would like to hear more stories, check that one out. Every once in a while, I'll get, strange feelings. I'll know something weird is going on in an area. I have feelings about certain areas, maybe that we're driving through. I actually have a strange feeling about a certain area, not in my backyard, but kind of to the side. And I just absolutely cannot stand that area. It just, I don't know, it gives me the creeps. I have that kind of stuff go on, but it's been pretty calm, especially in the last, I would say 10 years or so. It's been pretty calm. But those are my ghost stories, and those really happened. I'm not kidding. That's some scary stuff. It's some crazy sounding stuff. It's nothing that I can explain. I don't have any idea what it was, what it is, where it comes from. All I know is that it happened. Thank you for spending time with me. I really appreciate it. I love you all. And I hope you have a very, very happy Halloween. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe if you're not subscribed. Y'all stay safe. Bye.